Like, was it in your 20s, you care about what everyone thinks. In your 30s, you don't care about what anybody thinks. In your 40s, you realize that no one cared in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So like,
true.
stop,
Yeah.
hit
Yeah.
record, go stand in your best self and go do it.
Hello, world, and welcome back to the Millennial Outliers podcast. I am your host, Justin Deal, with my co-host, Tyler Ardron. What's up, Ty Guy?
What's going on, brother?
Not too much. We are back with another special guest today. I have a good friend of mine, Carl Eppolito. Carl and I have connected. We've known each other for a little while now, but we've really gotten to know each other, I'd say, over the last year or two. And, I admire him for a lot of different reasons. One, just his consistent faith. Two, we're going to get into some parenting things. I really respect the way he raises his daughters and goes about it as a divorced single father. And three, I'm a new client of his, so he helps me with all. He's going to be starting to help Payday with our branding and our social media. So you're going to see a lot of good things. So we'll steal a couple tips from him there as well. But Carl, welcome to the podcast, brother.
My man, look, I received that. I appreciate those compliments a lot. And I think if you're going to get known for three things, being known for your faith, being known for your parenting, and being known for who you are professionally, third, I'll take that order, man. So I appreciate y'all having me here.
Yeah, for sure.
So why don't you kick it off? Let's start with the faith piece, right?
Okay.
Because you've been such a big advocate and a big influence for me. So where did that begin for you? And you do such a great job of balancing it on social media, of people knowing that it's who you are. It's not this image that you're just trying to portray. So, give us a little bit about that, the authenticity of it.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because the authenticity piece, especially with the Christian faith, it's hard, because you should be proud of your faith. And when you're proud of your faith, you want to exemplify the things that exemplify a good Christian. And a lot of times we think that means perfect behavior. And we're not perfect. We're so far from it. Mm-hmm. And the expectation is never that we are perfect either. Biblically, that isn't the expectation. I think in the societal terms, when people think and they hear of what it means to be a Christian, they just think of, there's a very specific image that they think of. Now, for me, I was born and raised in the Catholic Church. I was an altar server up until it was definitely not cool. Absolutely. And, I think a lot of adults that find their faith later in life, I give them so much credit, because I didn't have to find mine. I was raised with it. Mm-hmm. And then I've asked a ton of questions as I've gotten older, but that baseline was always there to really understand, grasp, and accept what we believe as Christians as an adult, with so many things that you've already accepted, is a huge step. And I all the applause in the world, especially for people that have later in life been like, man, this is what I believe in, because you've just had so much pouring against you to believe in that. So I was always raised with it, raised around it. We went to church every Sunday, but I had zero relationship with it. So I had religion. I had no relationship with God. So long story longer, and unfortunately Justin knows that I'm winded. I went through a big divorce. And again, just never questioned my faith. And then it was Valentine's of 2020. And my best friend's dad passed away. Now think about your best friend from childhood. So my buddy and I, Austin and I have known each other since the day that we were born. And if you think about your best friend's parents,
you've known them all your life.
You have, yeah. But you've known them as a child. Mm-hmm. Right? So the way that I know Justin is very different than the way that my daughters know him.
Yeah, right.
And so while I so earmark that and come back to it. Ask me what my daughters think about you later, because it's definitely interesting. I don't think that we don't give ourselves enough credit, and you definitely don't, because they definitely look at you much greater than I think we would look at ourselves sometimes. Anyhow. So you think that you know him. I'm like, oh, it's Austin's dad. I've known Jerry my whole life. That's what we think. So he battled cancer. He lived, 12 years longer than they told him he was going to. Wow. So when the day came and he passed away, unfortunately, I thought that I knew this man as good as you could know somebody.
Sure.
And thank God this happened in February of 2020. I mean, 6 weeks later, we went and had his funeral.
Yeah.
And so I fly to Texas, and there's 400 people at his funeral.
Wow.
Now, yes, was he born and raised kind of in a similar place? Yes. And did he work locally? Yes. But even like,
That's a lot of people.
it's like that scene from Social Network. You've seen the movie where like the website just launches. I think it was like the Winklevoss twins make the joke. They're like, if I was a drug dealer, I couldn't give free drugs away to that many people that quickly, right? It's like he fills this church with 400 people. And I'm just like, goodness. And everybody that went up to speak about him they were all God stories. Meaning he had an impact on my life in a positive way that I'll never forget. And so many of the stories were just God stories. How he was a constant example of what it means to be a godly man. Now, I knew him my whole life. He wasn't evangelical. He wasn't on the street corner preaching the gospel. He lived it. And I remember thinking to myself so clearly, if I died tomorrow, I wasn't a bad man. I was doing great things. People would tell stories about me. They might say that he was philanthropic, or he was a good dad, or he was a great athlete, or he was a good friend. Hopefully my mom would say I'm a good son. But nobody would have stood up February of 2020 and said, he made my life better. He introduced me to God. He showed me what it meant to live a Christian life. I had no God stories in my life. And this guy's on his deathbed, and he's still impacting God stories. And I'm like, that is impact. Like,
it's powerful.
I just remember thinking to myself, like, God, I can't die. I can't die today. Like, how arrogant am I to think that, like, at that point in time, if I'm 38, I don't know, so I'm 34. I was like, how arrogant am I to just have wasted 34 years of impacting people's lives the way that I do believe, and especially now that like God intended us to live. And it was so profound, just sitting there being like, God, please let me live longer so I can do what this man did. And so ever since living there, I started a journey of really understanding my faith. Like, what does it really mean? Like, this is the most historically verified document in all time, meaning the Bible. I mean, it has passed the test of time. Like, so what's actually in here? I had no idea. Like, I had no idea that, Paul wrote 13 of the books of the New Testament. I had no idea that Luke was Paul's understudy. There were so many, like, these are real people. Like, if you believe that Julius Caesar existed, which I think almost anyone would believe,
yep.
He existed before Christ. The apostles were real people.
Right.
Like, they're not, that's not a make-believe series of events. And so I started treating it like that. And then I started seeking people to be around me that I think would have been similar to who Jerry was. And then the sequence of events over the last 4 years have been wild. I mean, it's no joke, or it's no secret, seek and you will find. It's one of the few things we're truly commanded by God to do. And if you will start that journey of seeking, and look, you can seek anything, right? You can seek, avoiding parts of life. You can seek unhealthy relationships that might feed you from a very flesh and bone perspective. You can seek money without morals. Like, so whatever you're going to seek, you'll find. But if you will truly seek, you'll find it. And that's kind of that's the long version of where this faith journey has led to. And then one of my goals has been, can I create God stories in people's lives? Again, I don't mean like bringing you to your faith. I don't think that's my calling. That takes a very special person. But I think it's one of my goals is I want to give, especially men, permission to be outspoken Christians, right? Like, and it does not mean perfection. It doesn't, I posted a story on my Instagram last night. We got this hill in our backyard, and, it's a punishment. You gotta go run the hill if you do something wrong.
Oh, I was telling Ty about
Yeah,
this.
I'm
stoked you brought this up by yourself.
Well, I also ran the hill.
Yeah.
It's like I wasn't perfect. Like I was, and we can get into that story, but I was imperfect, especially to my daughters, 2 nights ago, and I had to go run that hill. And so I'm not perfect by any means, but I want people to know that it's okay to pray before you eat if you're in public. Because it doesn't need to be this massive 3-minute prayer where we're laying hands on everyone around us. Those are amazing moments in people's spiritual lives. But I want men to know, like, hey, you can take 10 seconds. It's 10 seconds. Hey, Lord, thank you so much for bringing us together. Super blessed to have these people in my life. Let this food nourish our bodies, protect us for this day. Amen. What was that, 12 seconds?
Not even.
Yeah, it was like 6.
So, I mean, that's all you need, though.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts.
Yep.
And that's where it started. And it's crazy because I have endless stories from the last 4 years of what have happened. It's just kind of been reaffirming that, like, hey, like, keep sharing it through actions and not telling people. So yeah, it's been a really cool.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the hill because that's where I wanted to transition to anyway. So that was one of the other big things, so if you followed my journey when I did the ruck, Carl was the other one, brave / crazy enough to raise his hand and say, hey, I'll go through that hell with you. And a lot of our bonding, I believe, started in that moment. But we talk a lot when we do our other workouts about parenting. Carl has, as I said, his 2 girls. I have my 4 kids. And I like your non-traditional thought of how to kind of parent. So let's talk about first the hill and kind of how you handle punishments, and then jump into, we discuss a lot with deficiencies and then also what kids are good at and where we should actually tutor them and invest our time.
Man, that second one's
yeah, that one's we're gonna go into that.
I stand pretty firmly on that second one. So the hill, man.
Tell me a story. I don't think it's that bad.
No, so I'm thinking it's not bad, but I do try to take a couple of seconds. These answers are important.
Yeah.
One, for your audience. 2,
make sure the message is.
Well, it's right. I also don't, I think we talked about this, right?
Yeah.
There's so many guys that we watch that we see online, and after the third, after 10 videos, you start hearing this the same story twice.
Yeah.
And they're great stories, and I'm not saying they're not authentic stories, but they're canned.
Yeah.
I would love to sit some of these guys down and be like, hey, everything's off. Can you tell me something real?
Yeah.
Again, it's not that it's not real, but you just
it's very rehearsed.
It's why I like thinking about some of this stuff because how you answer it matters. So I was parented in a very firm, what I say goes, do as I say, not as I do, household. And it definitely came with a very strong iron fist. And that was both figuratively and literally. Take that as you wish. What I've learned about being a parent, my daughters were 1 month between their 2nd and 4th birthdays when their mom and I split. They were 1 and 3. And I didn't have a strong relationship with my dad. And so I knew that I wanted my daughters. I wanted us to be close. And I tell every dad this: tell your daughters that they're beautiful and that you love them, because if you don't, somebody else will who doesn't mean it.
And we don't want your little dusty boys talking to our girls like that.
But you know what? They're going to.
They're going to try.
Save that for somebody else.
And so it was important that my daughters and I had a certain level of respect for each other. Our house is completely flat as far as who's in charge. We're in charge. We all live by the same set of rules. All of us, all 3 of us. And it's been fascinating to watch them take ownership over the rules in the house. They take ownership over the things that are important. We have core values in our house that really matter to all 3 of us. So one of the core values is effort. And another one of the things that's really important is we don't yell in our house. Now, I'm not perfect, so I raise my voice. They do things that make me raise my voice. They're not responsible for my actions. Think of toxic relationships. Think of abusive relationships. How many times you hear someone might say, well, if you wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have done this. No. Life's all about data points. Maybe I did do something. I'll own that. Doesn't give you the right to then treat me like garbage or do something in return. That's just a reflection of you. And so we also don't curse in our house. We try not to. There's always a better word. And everyone loves Deion Sanders right now. Deion Sanders has not had a sip of alcohol or said a curse word since he was a sophomore in college. I'm pretty sure if prime time Deion cannot say a curse word.
Yeah.
Why am I so special? And I do. I slip up plenty around my daughters. I try to be that example. And I definitely don't want to say, hey, do this because I say so. They need to see leadership. And I think men have got to be leaders in their houses. I adamantly do not believe enough men are leaders by example in their houses. Like my 8-year-old daughter cannot go out and make money the way that I can. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not leading by example because it's not even tangible for them to understand work. So anyways, long preface. We have our backyard has this it's a pretty gradual slope down. There's an elementary school right behind us, and there's a red bench up against the elementary school. She's going to grow up hating this red bench. And it's super fun when it snows. You can actually snowboard down our backyard. It doesn't look big until I ran that daggum hill last night. And it's got some serious grade, and it's hard. So it's like, look, like if you do things, you got to do 5 sprints. Mia, at her last soccer practice, did not put forth the effort that Eppolito's put forth. And her coach was getting on to her. I was about to lose my mind. And one thing that I do as far as parenting is I overcorrect on purpose. Like I way over penalize when maybe like the fault wasn't that big, and I go extreme on the penalty because I'm trying to avoid the fault, there being a really big mistake. Right. So I'm trying to stop it right there. I do the same thing on the positive side. Like they do something that's good. Maybe it's a small good. I way over celebrate it. Yeah. So I wanted to show like, hey, this is the right pattern to go into. That was actually from Gary Vaynerchuk said that his mom did that when he was a kid.
For holding doors.
Holding doors. Things, yeah. Absolutely. She made it at the Super Bowl. And so she earned herself 25 sprints.
Ooh. My legs hurt thinking about that.
And you either get 5, 25, or 50. She had 50 last week. I didn't really know it's not a sprint that will kill you. But I didn't know the gravity of these sprints. And she said, Dad, I said, what the fuck, Mia? Like, she's not an effort. Her issue is not effort. Like, she's a coachable kid. The reason she makes the teams that she makes is that it's like everyone loves having her around. So I was like, what the fuck, Mia? So she goes, Dad, like, we don't curse in our house. And I was like, it's fair.
Give me
I lost, like, when we have a saying in our house, when your emotions win, you lose.
Yeah.
And that's applicable to everything. My emotions won, I lost. I got to do 25 sprints with you. When I tell you I was on 4, and then every 5 sprints, they can get a drink of water. They can take a 30-second break and go do 5 more. When I tell you I was like, I have all the power to say, hey, we're done doing these sprints. I have all the power to do this. I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, forget this. Like, this is a y'all thing. Like, and so you're running these groups of 5 sprints, and she would like, I'd be beating her in the first 3. All 5 sets of these, she did this. And then like, she just waxed me in the last like 1.5.
She's got the pace down.
And then she's like cheering me on. I'm like, you little shit. But these are all great traits, right? Like if you're leading in your practice and someone's struggling, you cheer them on. So I'm like, you're exemplifying all the things and you don't even know how humiliating this is.
Yeah.
So that was the 25 sprints, and I had to run them with her. Yeah. And then I remember telling her like, Mia, why would you, that was a video. I'm like, why would you choose this? You're at practice for 90 minutes anyways. And that 90 minutes isn't half as hard. I'm like, do you know that those sprints are hard? Like, do you enjoy these sprints? And her sister, because she's had to run them before, she goes, no, I hate them. Why do you think I'm not?
It keeps her in line.
Mia, like, those sprints are I'm like, do you like this? And she's like, no, I hate it, Dad. And I'm like, homie, like, that is a no joke punishment. Like, but they saw that I did it. I'll do it if I mess up again, man. But fudge.
Yeah. So as a parent, myself, how did you, for parents out there, how did you introduce, this?
So from an early stage, we've been a very athletic house, sports-driven house. For better or for worse, like I know what their gene pool is between their mom and I. And Mia's been a ridiculous athlete since the day that she could like walk. Also, punishments. I spent a lot of time thinking about punishments and rewards. Punishments there's usually an emotion behind a punishment. There's a reason behind the action. Kids are not great communicators. Well, neither are adults.
Yeah, right.
But a lot of times they are poorly communicating either an emotion, a feeling, something that led to an action. And we recognize that action, so we punish the action. So I try to uncover what led up to the action that's why we have our core values, right? So the core values in our house are everything that you do must be done with either love, kindness, or respect. So if it's not loving, it's not kind, and it's not respectful, you shouldn't do it. If it's only one of those three, we should probably talk about it. And it's allowed me to not be like, hey, this action's bad and don't do this or do that. Everything just gets judged against that baseline. And it's made parenting a lot more efficient. It's just simple. Like, was that loving, kind, or respectful? Okay, no, then we shouldn't have done it. Right. It's not like, oh, well, I could have done it, but this, or I could have done it, but that. Like, no.
Was
it's
it
a
this?
very simple baseline.
So you have the guardrails.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, because I only have them half the time. So I'm parenting in this,
It's hard.
Right. So again, like, it just comes back to like loving, kind, and respectfulness. The other core values are, all the glory goes to God. I am not above him. I believe this in my core too. Like, I am their earthly father. Like, I was entrusted to guide them in this part of life. Right? We're all children of God, and it is my job to guide them in an earthly fatherly, fashion. Punishments and consequences for me, they have so. Also, if they're honest, they'll never get punished for the action. And that's a hard one because they do things that should be punished. But to me, the trust of them coming to you,
it's big,
is more important. And we will go fix things together, but I got to know what you did. And we've had a couple of things. They're small, but they're moments of building trust for sure.
Yeah.
When they were bite-sized, smacking them on the wrist, had no effect.
Nah,
Just not.
Yeah. Sometimes they laugh.
They
laugh. You're like, what?
That doesn't work.
Dude, it worked for me. I was mortified.
I was so scared of my dad.
Yeah.
But
my parents were gentle parent or something.
Mine was too, but he would raise his voice, and I'd be like, oh. Like, he had that voice that was like...
We had some Ralph Deal freakouts, we called them. That was about...
My dad broke shit over me. Like, it wasn't...
Oh, wow, yeah.
So, but here's where it's twisted. He got a lot out of me.
Yeah. Right.
Like, that's where it gets twisted.
Certain people, you know how they're driven too. Like, some of us need a little...
I don't know. I've just, honestly, I've thought a lot about it. I've paid attention to what makes them tick. I've paid attention. So my daughters are really big on being rewarded for good behavior. In the absence of the reward is what happens with bad behavior. And I have trained them to chase the rewards of the effort that goes behind good behavior. The absence of that fruitfulness is more of a punishment. And it is, honestly, they're only 8 and 10, but there are very few things I've had to punish in a negative way. There's been bad behavior, it doesn't get rewarded.
Right.
And the celebration of the effort that leads to the good behavior is something that they both really... This has been more... I mean, I would say in the last 6 to 12 months has been the first time where I've put my foot down on bad behavior and saying, we don't do this. There are only 3 people that like, my youngest, her name's Mia Bella. There's a lot of Mias. The middle one is Sophia Rose. The oldest one is Sophia Rose. There's a lot of Sophias. Like, we're 3 Eppolitos. That's it. That's it. So, like, Mia, if you mess up, like, your sister and I have your name. Like, that needs to mean something to you. And when your sister goes out into the world, like, me and you have her last name. And when I go out in the world, I have y'all's last name. Right. So I put it on me. Yeah. Like, Dad, like, we expect you to have a certain standard because when you go out in the world, you have our name. Mia, when you go into the world, the expectation should be that Sophia and I are looking at you and be like, hey, and it's not perfection. It's not money. It's not success. It's everything you do will be love, kindness, and respect. And everything is bigger than us.
It's interesting you say that. I just realized now my parents, I guess, always perpetuated that in a different way. They always had a saying that, like, think about every action or decision you make that would be posted like on the front page of the newspaper, and how would we feel? And that kind of does come down to like love, kindness, and respect, right? If it's not one of those three, it's going to bring shame, embarrassment, anger, something, to everybody else who shares that last name. I love that perspective. So, one of the things I do love about you in general is how you show up for your girls. We have this conversation, a lot of dads specifically out there, their girls playing sports or doing whatever is like nice, right? Like they just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Now, granted, you don't have a son, but the way they show up for their sons on a field and their daughters a lot of times are completely different.
For sure.
And I love that it doesn't matter to you. You have a standard, you have all of these things in place, that this is just the way that it is. So on that, the other part of the conversation we were talking about, we spent a lot of time talking about Gianna, and, you hit me one time, we were talking about how she's exceptional in math and she struggles sometimes with the reading. And you were like, well, why don't you get her a math tutor? And it like kind of blew my mind. I was like, why? She's in the 99th percentile. Why would I get her a math tutor? And we're like, well, just because she's in 4th grade and can do 6th grade math, why not college math? Like, why not go all in on that? So talk a little bit about that mindset.
Yeah, it was not an original thought. I stumbled across a TED Talk when they used to actually be real things, not like what they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if the girls were born yet, honestly. And the guy simply said, in sports, if you're good at one sport and you're mediocre at one sport, what sport do you get the trainer in? The coach in?
Yeah, the good one, right?
Yeah.
The good one.
Yeah.
And in school, if you're good at a subject and you're mediocre at a subject, what subject do you get the tutor in when you're mediocre in?
Yeah.
Why? And I was so blown away. You need to be efficient. You need to have a certain level of competency. But why educationally do we bring everybody up from the bottom? Now, granted, what we do better than the rest of the world is we educate our masses. Go to any other country. The bottom, they don't get educated.
Yeah, they don't get it, right?
So we do that better than anyone. And we do university better than anyone else. Right? So the rest of the world, they all come to the US for university. But the rest of the world educates their youth at a higher level way better than us. And so I was on the advisory board of this boarding school in DC for about a year and a half. I just watched how these world elites all educated their kids. They were perfectly okay with competency in a certain subject. They found their child's strengths and they went all in on those strengths. And it just made sense. I don't need her to go from a C to a B in Spanish. Clearly, Spanish isn't where she's going to be excelling in life.
Mm-hmm.
But if she's making a 95 in math, if that was baseball, I would be like, hey, play up an age bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go find a better team.
Yep.
Right? So play up an age group in math. And I don't know why it made so much sense. So I remember telling myself, like, we're going to commit to this. We're going to be okay with this. As I've gotten older and it's actually started to kind of play out a little bit, I've been like, I've really had to catch myself because we're just naturally trained to bring everything up.
Yeah.
So the rules in our house with education, and look, my house was a house where like you only made straight A's in my house. Like, you did not make a B. You did not make a B if you wanted to eat. So like, again, like I was, threatened into my straight A's. So I've told the girls, look, if you have a test and you don't ask me for help, the expectation is that you know everything, and A is all that is allowed, period. If you don't ask for help, that means that you knew it. If you know it, you need to execute on it.
Mm-hmm.
Spelling test, vocab test, expectation, hundreds. You should never miss a spelling word. You should never miss a vocab word. You just didn't put in the effort. Some things don't click. Like even some of the social studies and some of their science stuff, like I'm like, I don't even want to read this.
Yeah, right.
Some of it they get really, really into. And so as long as you ask for help, then we'll work together on it. But I can tell where they get passionate about certain things. And I'm all about doubling down where they're good at.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're into it, let's go. Let's do more. They both really love math, which is great because I did too. And so it aligns, luckily. Sophia loves to read. Dude, I hate reading. I can't stand it. I read which is funny, I read all day, but I do not like front to cover books. I'll read for hours, but I have to have the constant changing, switching. Man, just that sit and read thing. I don't have it. Neither does my youngest. I'm like, all right, Mia, we'll find a different type of reading for you, but you got to read. But we got to figure out what the different type is. So yeah, I'm huge on doubling down on their strengths. Also, like when they get out of school, like let's find out what you're gonna like, what you love.
Yeah.
I don't believe in chasing passions. That's a great way to end up broke in life. Like, find out what you're great at,
Double down on it,
and then find out the things that you're good at, what you enjoy the most. Right. So if it's your passions or hobbies, and you should keep them there. If you only do things that you're very, very good at, but you hate doing, you're going to depress and miserable. So find out the thing that you're really great at that you also enjoy. And the sooner you find it, life pays you back faster with that one. Yeah. So go do it. I want my daughters to chase that more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super, super interesting because I have the same mindset as you. My two sons are 3 and 1. So I've actually, with my wife, have been discussing potentially homeschooling. And the reason why is, to your point, they have social studies, math, every subject, right? And, say they don't like doing math or whatever, they still have to sit in that classroom for an hour or whatever and learn math, which they should, right? They should learn it. But, also to your point, like if we see, and we're homeschooling around a curriculum that, nowadays it's so easy with online. They have curriculums that you can get. There's ways to connect with other homeschooled parents and everything in the area and all that. But you can double down on what your child is good at, like you said, and what they like doing, while still, you're still going to cover math and everything. But like, also your point, at the end of the day, I use math and stuff, but like I'm not using algebra. I'm not using, geometry. I'm not using history. I mean, I know, but I'm not using it like daily. So like, finding what that is for your kid, doubling down, and then being the teacher, we could focus on that more.
Yeah.
So it's still something me and my wife are discussing, but the reason we're discussing that is really a lot to your point.
Yeah. I think with elementary school, there's still advantages of now. Mine they're in a private school setting, to keep things out of school that I don't think are school topics. Middle school, I really agree with you. I've even seen it with my oldest now. Like I'm not a believer in homework. You have my kid for 7 hours.
Yeah, figure it out.
You posted something about that, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't send.
It's not our job to spend. We get 2-3 hours a night with our kids.
So so Sophia, she stresses out, man. She wants to make 100 in everything. She wants to be the best at her sport. You couldn't ask for a better kid.
Yeah,
I was so blessed with her. It's ridiculous. So she was upset because she didn't finish her homework last night. She had 3 hours of cheer last night. And she said, they're going to say that, sports take up too much time. And I said, Soph, do I send you to school and ask them to let you practice? Do I give you do I give you sport work to take to school?
Yeah.
She goes, no. I said, look, twice a week you have big nights. Fridays is, separate. And twice a week you do a lot of schoolwork. You came home, you did your work. We also have some family time. Again, I only have them half the time.
Sure.
So I will be happy to speak with your teacher because you did do work. Excuse me. You did do work. You did study. I know you'll do anything that you might have missed either at school or the next night. You have the kids for 7 hours. Like there are definitely instances where homework is important. My youngest daughter had a religion test. We studied for it last night. So it was also a lot of fun studying for tests. So
Yeah.
think about how tests are made. Tests are made, like teachers aren't coming up with unique tests. Like,
Yeah, right.
Tests come from the book.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I got really excited last night. I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna teach you how to study for a test. What I didn't tell, I'm not gonna teach you how to learn the material. I'm gonna teach you how to study for a test. So it was like these 4 pages that were out of a textbook. And I said, we're studying for a test. We're not learning material. Big difference. Tests in school are all about the test. They're not asking you who knows the material the best.
Yeah.
It's who answers the question the best. I'm going to teach you how to find. And I just do this in school. I figured out how textbooks were written. Like, I just figured out where tests came from. And so we walked through these sheets last night. I had way more fun. She probably thinks I'm a lunatic. And I told her how to study for a test. I can't wait to see what her grade is. Just because I know you can just tell, looking at a 3rd grade worksheet. I'm like, they're going to ask you this question. 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 I said, study these sections. And she did. I'm like, just do it again. And so that I'm actually excited about, teaching them how to find answers in life. Deductive reasoning, all right? Intuitive. That's super applicable to the world. I do not like memorization, regurgitation. I hate that.
Yeah.
That's most of schooling.
But then you forget about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
So let's put together a process that's going to help you. And look, if we get it wrong, maybe we get it wrong. But I went to college. What was it? It was supply chain management 301. I made this bet with myself. I went to the very first day of class and the very last day of class. The class had 5 tests, each were 20%. And I played a game with myself. I'm like, I'm not going to go to class once. I'm going to take 5 tests and see what I get on them. Because I knew where all the answers were. I made an 88. I'll never forget it. But if you figure out the process in life, you get to a lot of answers. And so that was actually kind of fun last night. I was like, hey, how do you get this? But with Soph, I'm like, Soph, stop freaking out about it. I'll email it. I'm happy to.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this 2-3 hours of homework a night thing.
Yeah.
Just not going to do it. And I told the girls, look, your grades, they mean nothing until they do. And when they do, we will get what we need to so you can get where you want to. You become addicted to the process. So for example, we write out our goals every 3, 6, 9, 12 months. We write out our goals. And then we write out the process it will take to achieve them. And then we erase the goal.
That's awesome.
Process is all that matters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. Just get addicted, obsessed. And it applies to everything. Their cheer, their soccer, the lacrosse, the basketball. They're doing the drums, the violin. It applies to every single thing you do. So yeah.
My man. Let's switch gears a little bit. We got a little deep. Let's jump into the business side of things as well. So for those who are watching us on YouTube, you can see the Who's the AI shirt. But if you don't, and you're listening to the audio, why don't you tell us what is Who's the AI? What is AI in general? Everybody, right? It's like this big. Let's go down that wormhole for a minute.
Dude, Who's the AI is the guy you had next to you in class that slid you the answers. Just now it's not going to get you suspended.
Oh, I love that.
Right. So look, so when you had that guy in class, right?
Yeah.
Some people thought that he was either a loser, probably was a drug dealer. You know, he was a nobody. Yeah. If you were like me, I didn't do drugs, but I knew who he was. I'm like, he got some value in life. Let's figure this out. And I'm like, the answers he slid me were always right. I don't know what he slid everybody else. You can leverage things in life, or you can just take advantage of them. You can just, you quote unquote use them. It's exactly how AI is, man. Everyone that's gone on a chat GPT right now to leverage AI, they're doing it all wrong. They're treating it like it's Google. They're saying, hey, they're either asking it a question or they're asking it just to do something for them. And it starts and stops right there. They're not doing anything else with it. It's like, no, this is the smartest dude ever sitting next to you. Like, don't ask them. Like, we work with a lot of real estate agents. And they're like, oh, I use it for my property descriptions. Well, did you mean that you told them what kind of house it was and it wrote you a description? So that description is like everybody else's? Or did you have a conversation with it? Hey, I want to write a property description for this kind of property. What are some things I should be thinking about? Oh, you should be thinking about da-da-da-da-da. Okay. And I'd like to attract this kind of buyer. Do you think this is the right kind of buyer, with this kind of price point in this area? Da, 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 da. Okay. What are some things I should be thinking about in my property description for this kind of buyer? Da, 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 da. Okay. Can you help me write a property description looking for this kind of buyer and this kind of house? Yeah. Da, 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 da. So then you read it. Okay. Could you write it in a different tone? Most of the people that look at these product descriptions are women, and I want to make sure that this is in the tone. That's how you interact with AI. You have a conversation with it. You learn from it. It's a two-way, it's a two-way conversation. So that's where a lot of people are just getting AI wrong. With Whoosy, so we built a chat GPT of sorts, but it's built on top of chat GPT. So I spent my entire career in the technology industry. And then in the last 4 years, I started my own business because I used to travel a ton. And as Justin knows, I don't miss things. It's like I'm in my daughter's lives everywhere I can be. And I don't want to travel the way I used to. And so, but I know how the platforms are built. I know how technology is built. And I know how content gets created. I know how content gets consumed. Just led into the content creation business. Whoosy is a natural language model, but it was built on top of ChatGPT, meaning our baseline is ChatGPT. So at minimum, you would interact with us, our platform, Whoosy.ai, the exact same way you would ChatGPT. But we've added other contextual layers. So for example, we've added what we call co-pilots. You could ask it a question through the lens of a CEO, through the lens of leadership, through the lens of supply chain, through the lens of marketing, through the lens of sales, through the lens of HR. So it's not going to answer these questions as an executive in these lines of business would do it. We've also added, I think it's over 200 or 300 business books. So if you were to say, hey, what is a blue ocean strategy for this company? Yes, it could reference that book if you ask it to for ChatGPT. Whoosy will reference the top 300 books and pull as it's needed, asking different questions about different things. So that right there makes it significantly different. And then the third thing that we've done that I think is makes us stand out is nobody knows how to ask another question. It's called prompt engineering. No one had ever heard that phrase 6 months ago, prompt engineering. So how are you going to be proficient in it? You're not. So after you ask Whoosy a question, we will suggest what your next 3 prompts maybe should be. So we prompt you to keep that conversation going. So you ask it a question. I would say 95% of people stop right there. They get their answer, they go. Mm-hmm. And so we'll simply ask you a question on what you should ask next, just to get better and better answers. Because the goal of AI should be not to become more efficient. It should be to be the best version of yourself you can be. The goal should be proficiency. How do I become the absolute best real estate agent, the best mortgage broker, the best podcast host, the best whatever, fill in the blank. It shouldn't be, how can I, automate my email replies? How should I do email marketing? Like, do you realize that everyone's email marketing is just going to all sound the same? If everybody asks ChatGPT the exact same question, it's going to give everyone the same answer, which means your email marketing in 6 months, your SMS marketing is going to all look the same. And so that's what Whoosy does. We've launched in the real estate space first. Our co-founders are deep in that space. And we've met with some of the biggest brokerages in the world already. We've already met with the executives at EXP, building models for those brokerages. And so that the model will think and act
like a realtor,
like the brokerage would. And so they want their realtors, they want their brokers, thinking a certain way. We've also developed, smart documents. So imagine, I actually did this with my divorce documents. I uploaded all my divorce documents, and I would ask Whoosy questions about my documents.
Right.
Imagine getting proposals or contracts, and then you could upload them, and then you could ask the platform questions about this contract. Is this a good offer? What questions should I ask, the other broker about this offer? What's a good counter offer? So actually interacting with the documents as your baseline. We've had a lot of positive feedback with that. And then really in the real estate transaction, there's just so many things that happen in the transaction. All the dates. This, all the stuff. So imagine having a smart document that had all of your dates, everything that needs to happen, and it's really your assistant working alongside you, but it's your AI assistant. And so it'll be, who's the transaction manager? And it's literally uploading all of your closing documents.
Wow.
And that's the response we've gotten. I'm not in real estate. And so I view all of this just from the tech perspective.
Right.
I'm finding problems. I want to answer them.
Mhm.
And that's been the reaction. Every single person who has looked at what we're building, which is about a month away, is like,
You pay a lot of money for a transaction coordinator,
well, so imagine that. Exactly.
So you got a person doing it, you're paying them 40, 50K a year.
And then on a bigger aspect, like a brokerage, you've got
multiple.
You've multiple, or you're bringing in these services.
Yeah, that's doing it on the right.
Like a transaction or something
Yep.
else, and those fees are crazy.
Yep.
So we can literally cut the fees by 70%. And it's just by document we would charge. You would need one person managing basically the entire platform, and everyone's response has been yours. And I'm over here like I'm very. The thing that I bring to the table with this team is I'm very agnostic to like I care about like, do we have a problem? Do we have a problem in the industry? Great. Do we solve that problem in the industry? Great. Who has that problem? Are they willing to pay for it? Awesome. That's go-to-market strategy.
Right.
I don't care about emotions. I don't care about feelings. Nothing. With software, it is very
cut and dry.
If in that way, right? I need industry experts that are going to be touchy-feely. Like we're doing meetings today and tomorrow up in Portland, Oregon. And those are our industry experts. They're very touchy-feely. They're asking all the questions. And I'm like the worst guys in that room. I'm like, I couldn't care less.
Discovery phase.
Yeah, I don't. But I have to be just very, very matter of fact on great problem solution. How many people have that problem? What are they willing to pay? Awesome package, go to market strategy. What's the differentiator? Why us? Why does that matter?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's figure out, why you, why does that matter? And then staying super focused on who else has that problem and going and finding them. I'm very direct in my sales approach with software. Like I don't mind putting some tension on people, like uncovering the problem, pressing on that problem. It's like being a doctor. Search until it hurts and then apply pressure.
Yeah.
That's kind of always been my very, very specific sales approach. I did it to Justin for I don't know how long with his content.
That's a perfect transition to my last question. So, that's the part you're helping me with, and I'm learning a ton from you. So what little gems can you give folks? What are people doing wrong with their social media? Why don't you give them that? What are the biggest, like, this is where you're messing up? Because you're very good at doing that to me.
Yeah. So, there's three different kinds of people with social media, right? So there's people that we both know that I'm trying to close. That person's got an audience. They're making content. It just sucks and needs to be better. So I know exactly how to help that person. There's people that are trying. That's Justin. But you don't have an audience. We got to build your audience. Mm-hmm. And then there's people who aren't doing anything at all because there's a bunch of reasons why. So if you're in the business world, you got to hit record and you got to go.
Yeah.
You have to do that. And what's funny is in the business world, we're not worried about looking like a fool. We just know that everyone in our day-to-day life, the soccer coach and the PTA mom and our friends, they see social.
Yeah.
So now they're judging us.
Yeah.
Like, look, dude, other people's opinions about you aren't your business.
Right.
Bottom line. Like, in your 20s, you care about what everyone thinks. In your 30s, you don't care about what anybody thinks. In your 40s, you realize that no one cared in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So like,
true.
Stop. Hit record. Mm-hmm. Go stand in your best self and go do it. The second thing I would say is when it comes to content, you've got 3 seconds. So everyone who starts their content, they say like, my name's Justin Deal and I'm down. Yeah. I don't care what your name is. I don't care who you're with. You have 3 seconds to tell me why I should stay. If I stay, then you cut to my name, Justin Deal with Payday Player Solutions, blah, 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 blah. You have 3 seconds. Or the whole like, everyone's been asking me, no one's been asking you anything. I hate to tell you this, question I get all the time is you don't get any questions. Just all that has to get cut out. And people are like, well, I want to hold them until the end and then give them the value. No. Your best 3 seconds is your first 3. Period. End of story. You have to do that. And it's no mystery. You got to be consistent. I'll tell you this on the viral content. There's all of this like, well, the platform's like this and the algorithms like that. No. That's all not true either. All platforms like one thing. They want you on their platform. And they want, if your content will keep people who are already on the platform on your content, they like that. But even better is if your content can bring somebody who's not on the platform to it. Meaning if I send you, if I'm scrolling and I see something and I send it to you, like all that crap I send you every day anyways, they love that, right? Because that means that you weren't currently logged in, but you might see my message and then you might go watch that piece of content. They love that. They want people on the platforms. It is the only thing that matters. There might be some trending audio and the platforms know that people are into this audio. They might push it. That last, you should always make something around the trends just to take advantage of the waves. So that's not like a giant overarching strategy, but, play with it. But it's super simple. And then the last thing is authenticity. It just really, really matters. And what the bummer is that you're going to be judged locally and you will get notoriety nationally.
Just like Jesus.
Well,
right? He was just a carpenter in his town, right? He was the carpenter's son.
And then he was also judged.
Yeah.
I joke, everyone's talking about, this whole trend right now about hey, do you study the Roman Empire? You seen this?
Yeah,
thing?
I've seen this.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
I've seen it. I'm like, I must be old.
I actually don't get it either.
So the joke is that a lot of dads, myself included, it's like wives asking their husbands, like, hey, do you know much about the Roman Empire? And it's like, oh yeah, I actually know a lot about it. Like, guys, we have this random knowledge about stuff.
Where did it come from though?
I don't.
It
just took off because it was kind of funny. So I think,
Huh.
One wife saw it and then like, oh, I'm gonna ask my husband this.
Okay. Interesting.
There's a lot of details with like why that went viral. But my point though is that there's a lot of people who know a lot about Roman history that don't know Jesus. And the irony is that like one kind of killed the other. It's like it's kind of hard to not know Roman history but not know who he is. But I mean, being authentic though, like I've got, we both know people. Like I've gotten judgment from people locally because they might be like, oh, he's doing this on social and he's doing that on social. Doesn't matter because the people that it's supposed to reach, it's going to reach. Right. So for every one person that judges you locally, my inbox is full of people that say, hey, thanks for sharing this message. So be authentic. Your first 3 seconds really, 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 really matter and hit record. You'd be stunned to what happens.
Love it.
For everything else, at Carl Eppolito, follow me online.
There you go. That's right. We'll have you plugged in. And then Ty, why don't you finish off with your question?
Yeah. So ask every guest this. Can you give us one failure that you've had in your life, whenever, business, however you want to go with it, and the biggest kind of lesson, that you took from it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my marriage, without a doubt. I was divorced after not even 3 years of being married. There wasn't any infidelity. There was no abuse. We were super, super unhappily married. And we could have taken steps to save our marriage. We, not her, not I, we didn't. Tons of external factors. But when I look back, and she probably wasn't my person. I think that was me making a decision. Wasn't God's will for me. I really wanted it. I think she really wanted it. But we, looking back, didn't do what it would have taken. And we have created a very stressful life for our daughters. We have made our lives very stressful. Abuse aside, that's different. That matters. You take care of your house. Take care of your house. Sit your spouse down, ask them what's going on, and actually care. Like they could tell you anything in the world and it wouldn't matter because what you're actually looking for is them to share it with you. And that could be something from you're fat and out of shape, whatever it might be. I mean, infidelity happens because people are looking for something they're not getting at home. Now, should they communicate it? Of course they should have. You also didn't create an environment where they obviously felt safe. And yeah, I mean, my life is way harder because of that divorce. Have I learned? Sure. Will my next wife be the benefit of all those things? Sure. Are my daughters flourishing? Sure. Bottom line though is that it was a massive failure. Massive. I did plenty of things that led to it. Take care of your house and actually care about the answers. That's what I'd say.
It's awesome.
Man, that's a mic drop right
there.
That is
right there.
That,
Jeez.
Take that to the bank.
Yes, sir.
Well, shit, if you don't, your divorce will.
I didn't want to say that. I was just saying it's something you learned a lesson and are continuing to pay for. But, I think that's, it was said at this point. So what are we going to do? Well, that was, friends, what an episode. I feel like there's a lot of gems from that for you to run with. So we appreciate you being here with us as always. And make sure, as Ty would tell you, YouTube, like it, hit the little bell thing. If you're going to follow Carl, you'll see all of his stuff as well. So make sure, friends, engage and let us know. Give us feedback. Who would you like to see? What would you like us to talk about on future podcasts? So as always, make the best day ever, y'all.
Best day ever.